Call the meeting to order and welcome everybody to the Vergne Planning Commission regular meeting of April 24th, 2018 at 6 p.m. First item of business, we do have a quorum. We are approving the meeting minutes from March 27th, 2018 regular meeting.
Motion to accept is submitted.
We have a motion to accept. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And it's passed. First item of business, site plan requested by Civil Site Design Group for mini storage depot, property located at 5605 Murfreesboro Road, tax map 18F, parcel 1, C2 Highway Service Zoning District, property owned by JR Properties Management, LLC. Mr. Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This request is for site plan approval at 5605 Murfreesboro Road. And I think this is the second month. They had to defer the first month, but they're back. So this site is approximately 5.4 acres, and it is, the request is for self-storage, and it is adjacent to the existing A-plus storage on Murfreesboro Road. The site plan proposes 5 buildings, plus an office, as well as driveways, parking areas, and other associated improvements. The largest building will be approximately 45,000 square feet, and office space will comprise about 1,050 square feet, and there are 11 car parks that are proposed. They did go to the Board of Zoning Appeals to request to be inside the 220-foot setback that existed at that time for the self-storage, and the request was not granted at the Board of Zoning Appeals, so they moved the building back 220, behind the 220-foot line. This is the old plan, but the 220 is right here, and so they've now moved the building back. So there's nothing, no facilities associated with self-storage in front of that 220. And then at the rear of the facility, they're going to have RV and boat parking, and those are the spaces that are shown here at the rear of the property. And they are proposing to install a 5-foot wide sidewalk on that section of Murfreesboro Road, as there are no existing sidewalks there. And I've got some pictures. That's looking northeast. That's the existing house that's there today. And then this is the top of the A-plus storage building in the distance. And then this is looking back to the southeast at the site. So they are in the overlay district for Murfreesboro Road, and they have submitted a materials board and color elevations, and the materials board is up there available to look at. And there's no other outstanding technical comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from the board?
Couple, Mr. Chairman. The applicant to come forward.
If we have an applicant here, if you can come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Sean DeCoster, Civil Site Design Group, 2305 Klein Avenue, Nashville.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Coates.
So if there was a fire in one of these buildings at the back, where's the closest fire hydrant?
We've got a hydrant installed. Can I come up and, is it easier for me to come up and point?
Yeah, I just want to...
Installing a hydrant here and a hydrant here.
And both buildings are sprinkled.
Yes, the larger buildings are sprinklered.
The question was, the detention pond is big enough for the runoff?
It is.
It is. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? That will end. Mr. Jones?
I was just going to ask, Logan, is this, Mr. Logan, is this yours, or who gets this?
It was for us, but it was submitted to.
No,
Or
who
this
does it go? It's
We'll
okay,
go
I'll
back
just
to
put it
Mr.
back
Logan.
in.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We will entertain a motion.
a motion to accept as submitted.
We have a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
No.
opposed? No. A no from Mr. Coates. Motion passes. Next item, amendment to zoning ordinance, amend 3.110, site plan requirements, delete fee in lieu for sidewalks, presented by Mr. Coates. Mr. Logan, should
Thank
we, go ahead, sir.
Sorry, based on the discussion 2 weeks ago at the workshop, the public hearing has to occur, so it's going to be deferred for that public hearing.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody else has.
Mr. Chairman, just, I guess add flavor text, so to speak. The public hearing will be scheduled prior to the PC meeting on the 23rd, or 22nd. 23rd?
May 29.
May 29?
Yeah.
So the public hearing is scheduled for the 23rd. That's when the public notice period is going to be done. We'll do the public hearing before the 29th, and then this will be able to be voted on. So what you can do at this moment, and Nick can step in and correct me if I'm out of line, is that you can defer this item until that time, because item 2 is being driven by 3 and 4.
Yes, sir.
And 3 and 4 are what you will actually vote on and what this body has authority to change. And what we'll be changing to in items 3 and 4 was what I provided during the workshop last.
Very, very good. So we'll go ahead and defer 2.
I would just add there, for staff's edification as well, is items 3 and 4, I think that the next agenda should just be moved up and addressed first, okay? Because that's what this board has jurisdiction to rule on, and that's what your intention is anyway. And then once you've ruled on that, assuming that you've passed that following a public hearing, you'll have the amendment to the zoning ordinance before you and what to do with that. And on that, imagine if you pass 3 and 4, you're not going to want to delete, or make a recommendation rather, to delete the fee in lieu requirement.
Yes, sir.
Zoning ordinance. So at that time, we can take that up and either defer it indefinitely or just deny it as it is right now until it gets brought back up again, if it ever does.
Yeah, so are we going to vote on 3 and 4 this evening?
No, what I
defer
would
them
do
as
is
well.
read 2, 3, and 4 and just defer all of them via motion, so it's clear for the record until next month, so they can have a public hearing.
Very good. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to defer items 2, 3, and 4 until next month's meeting.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. That will be deferred till next month's meeting. Next item. Recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, rezoning of property requested by Jadiv Patel, .82 acres, property located at Cheney and Old Nashville Highway, tax map 018P, Group C, parcel 5 and 5.01, current zoning district R3, high-density residential, proposed zoning district C2, highway service, property owned by DNR Homes, GP. Mr. Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first off, I've not heard from this applicant in quite a while, so I don't know if they're planning on pursuing it or not. But this property is at the corner of Cheney and Old Nashville Highway and is 0.82 acres. And currently it's zoned R3, and you can see back on the zoning map, everything around it is residential. The orange is R1. And so there's a lot of R1 on both sides, and then the green color is R3. So it's either R1 or R3 all around there. So this does involve 2 parcels to be rezoned. Again, it's only 0.82 acres. There's 2 mobile homes on the interior lot, or the lot at the corner, as you can see in the photo. And there's a dark one to the left and a beige color to the right, and then this is looking back to the stop sign and the intersection of Cheney and Old Nashville Highway. And then this is looking toward the mobile home that's closest to Old Nashville Highway. And then this is on the second lot, and just a standard house and driveway existing. So, like, we're not to the site plan stage, of course, but one would think they'll all be demolished if anything were to happen there. And this is the last photo looking back toward Cheney. That's so that's looking northeast away from Smyrna. Excuse me, northwest away from Smyrna.
Any other comments, sir? Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Yeah, we've had no contact with the applicant prior to workshop or prior to this meeting. No written deferral request.
No, sir. No contact, so.
With that, if we have any comments or questions from the board, we'll-
But the applicant put the request in and he's paid his fee, correct? Obviously, for me, the rest of the board, for me, it's just, it's classic spot zoning, so, I mean, I have an issue with putting that in there at the present time, the way it's set up. It's a very small piece of property as well at the present time, so with it presently being R3 and R2 around it, it's just difficult to put in another zoning that's not equivalent to the other areas.
any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to tag on, agree with that, with it being .82 and the mention of a gas station besides residential, makes me a little nervous on that also.
Apologies. With
So
those-
with that, with due process, we have to move forward, and so
Yes, sir.
I'll move on to send an unfavourable recommendation to Mayor Alderman due to the surrounding properties do not, A, because of the size of the property, and B, because of the surrounding properties are residential.
Thank you. We have a motion to send an unfavorable recommendation. We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We will be sending an unfavorable recommendation for the rezoning of that property. Next item, site plan requested by Dale and Associates for 126 International Boulevard, property located at 126 International Boulevard, tax map 017, parcel 2.01, I-2 Heavy Industrial Zoning District, property owned by Hood Distribution. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This request is for site plan approval at 126 International Boulevard. And this is actually an addition of 9,000 square feet. And the addition will serve as a lumber storage facility. And you can see in the ortho here, the Waldron runs north and south, and this is International Boulevard there. So this is a corner lot, and the total site is 3.8 acres, and they have indicated on the plans that all the surfaces will be 100% dustless material, so that is good. And there is still a comment about the sidewalk. There's a sidewalk required on all road frontages, so that's the last outstanding staff comment. They would need to address that issue on the site plan. And they're also requesting a variance to the overlay district standards. So I know about 5 or 6 months ago, we had Power Equipment that submitted very close to them. And you all will remember their submittal was really good and intact, and they had a lot of things, architecturally speaking. So I don't know. I mean, we just don't want to get in a situation where we're treating one differently than the other. I don't think. But anyway, so the sidewalk comment remains, and then the architectural comments remain.
Very good. Mr. Leach?
Mr. Chairman, if you remember, we did have a discussion about the sidewalks, and this would be one of the cases where fee in lieu is appropriate, because there's rural drainage on the section that doesn't have frontage, and the sidewalk would not connect to any other existing sidewalks. So we did have probably a 5-minute discussion about whether this is the appropriate avenue to utilize fee and lieu, and it was generally my feeling that this is an appropriate avenue for that approach, but it is ultimately the board's decision.
Very good. Is there a representative for this project here this evening? Name and address for the record, gentlemen.
Adam Sager with Dale and Associates, 516 Heather Place. And I'm the engineer of record. Mike Hill, the contractor, is here as well. I apologize, I was not able to make the workshop that night. Someone else from Dale and Associates was there. Mike was as well, and could probably maybe better speak into that meeting. But from what I understood as far as the sidewalk issue is that there was some discussion. The person from Dale and Associates came back and said, I don't really know if there was a decision, just that there was a lot of discussion on it. Our feeling on this, one, when we read the overlay, I don't think it's specifically stated in there if the overlay applies to the entire property when we're doing an addition, or if it's just the portion of the addition. As you can see from the site plan, the addition is only in front of Waldron Road, not International. And so kind of our logic was, well, if we're only in front of Waldron Road, then that should be the appropriate portion of the site that's subject to the overlay, not the entire site. Therefore, that was one reason why we decided not to show the sidewalk. Now, the other, as he mentioned, it does go back to a dead-end road. We're in an industrial area, and it would cause drainage problems. So whether it's fee in lieu of or just not requiring the sidewalk, that was our position. That's kind of the logic of how we got to that decision on sidewalks.
In regards to the overlay question, I would really like to point that towards the city attorney and for interpretation on that. So that's kind of one of the things that we've got on the table.
Yeah.
And I'm going to assume the rest of the board is probably on board with this. We probably need to go ahead and talk about the sidewalks some more anyhow. So would y'all like to just defer this back to workshop? Let's talk about it some more, and that'll let you make the decision whether you want to appeal the overlay, because we don't have any overlay items presented, do we? And we are in an overlay district.
Yeah, and that's my comment is we, the other applicant further down did follow procedures
Yes.
for a manual, and then these group are not.
Yeah.
You know, we can be coming, we're not being consistent. in my opinion.
And to be in defense of the applicant, I don't think that it was really overlay issue wasn't mentioned in workshop. So it was moderate oversight on the board's behalf.
Okay.
So if that's,
Well-
that's probably going to be the best course of action, because we've got a couple items that we still need to tend to and address.
I'd like to hear those items, but I know they would like to get approval. So if it's defer to talk about fee in lieu of sidewalks, I think they're fine paying the fee in lieu of, if that's answers that question. I don't know if I understood you correctly, but our preference is not to defer unless there's something else that would cause the board to.
Is there a fee in lieu comment on the paperwork at this point, or is there any comment in regards to this?
I mean, we could, if the board elects to, we could just append that as part of this conversation, since everything is recorded. If applicant agrees to pay the fee in lieu, I think that would be acceptable, but that would be me interpreting some of Nick's area of expertise, but
And we've still got,
I'm at a disadvantage because I haven't seen any of the paperwork, and
It is-
I'd have to look through the zoning ordinance and make sure. I just don't have an answer at this time.
okay. I think in everybody's best interest, both for the city and for yourselves, I think we need to go back to workshop at this point so that we can discuss this a little more, because we are going to have an overlay situation with an existing building that we have absolutely no idea what the building is going to look like, aside from,
You have the option to continue on, but then we're going to vote.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's it, so.
But we did provide architectural elevations. It's just
Do it.
matching the existing facility.
okay.
If the facility out there is wood distribution, it's the green metal building, I'm sure everybody's driven past it. We are just mimicking what's already there to keep it in character with the existing company. I mean, that's kind of their brand. They're right there on the corner, and that's what they do. If we need to defer because y'all feel uncomfortable about voting, I don't want y'all to vote feeling uncomfortable, but I'd also like to know if there's any other comments or issues. I've heard sidewalk, And I've heard,
Sidewalk overlay,
I'd have to know if the
renderings.
overlay, will the green part that you've got that you're gonna mimic, does that meet the overlay requirements?
That was my question as
To
well.
what I'm looking at, the answer is no. I mean,
Okay.
the efficient.
well, no, I don't,
If it's metal, absolutely not, it does not.
no, it doesn't meet it, but I didn't think that the existing building was subject to the overlay.
Not the existing,
No,
the new
not the
building.
existing building, but you just said you were gonna mimic the
Yes,
existing building.
yes.
It would
That's
need, it
correct.
would need to fall under overlay standards.
Yeah, the new building, the smaller one, it is not going to meet your overlay standards, which is why we are requesting the variance.
Then variance would have to be done through Board of Zoning Appeals, which would put you out another month regardless.
I thought it was planning commission.
No, the planning commission does
Yeah,
Variance on the,
any
Okay.
deviation from the,
that's how it's written. in
the overlay is that.
thank you, sir.
Okay, this is where we stand, as far as I see it, because I'm getting confused myself.
Yeah, okay.
You'd be better off doing a deferment.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
We need to have some lengthy discussion
Yeah.
about this again.
Okay.
Because if a metal building is gonna come up, your neighbors down the way there are gonna be asking questions as to, why is it that, we're not being consistent. So I just,
What if we connect the buildings?
what's
Right
the,
now, we
si-
have it separated, but what if we connect the buildings? Would that be to the same?
Yeah, no, answer question, then you add into the building, so you still have to meet the same requirements.
There's an exemption in your all's code about exempting building additions.
yeah,
Well-
if it's,
So then we would be exempt.
what's the size of that? Is it over 50%?
50%, isn't it?
Is it
Oh, no,
over
we're just,
50%?
the whole building, I don't know.
48,000 square
So it'd
feet
be-
as it exists now, and we're adding on 9,000.
Okay. Okay, that would be a,
If you look in the zoning ordinance, the Walden Road, Murfreesboro Road streetscape, it says existing structure additions of less than 50% and parking lot improvements shall be exempt from the requirements of this district.
okay.
That would have been a nice comment down here in comments. Thank you, sir.
I feel like the person was here last week and placed it. I think he went away with in his mind that we was going to accept a fee in lieu, because they said over there they were fine with it. We looked at each other here. You see a yes here and a yes here and a yes. So I feel like the fee in lieu should stay in place, because we more or less give him an indication that would be okay, since our engineers told us it's almost infeasible to put a sidewalk there.
I have to agree with you, Mr. King.
Mr. Chairman, one thing you could do is if someone wanted to make a motion to approve, but are concerned with the fee in lieu option, you could add that to the motion stating that, approve the site plan subject to the applicant paying the fee in lieu, and make that part of your motion. That way it's part of the minutes.
And then combining.
Very good.
But then they're not meeting the requirements of the outdoor light, they're meeting the requirements of the sidewalk setbacks, I presume they are, they're not meeting the requirements of outdoor lighting, they're not requiring the landscape beautification, that's not been handled. Exterior's not been handled either. Utility provisions I'm sure have, so I understand we're trying to, push a square peg for a round hole, but, I still feel that we're not being consistent with other applicants as being, and other applicants that come forward to us. And so with that, I prefer they would defer, because at the moment, I'm going to say no. That's my vote. But that's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Coates. We've got a good argument either way, gentlemen. Which direction would you like for us to go? Would you like to defer? Would you like
In
for
light
us
of
to
all this
continue?
conversation, we request deferral so that we have time to just make sure everybody's clear on what's what, and we can come back and we'll make it clear in the next go around on all this. It helps getting feedback from y'all.
Thank you. And even if it's existing materials that you're going to use, please bring a materials board.
Sure.
And then we'll work the process together.
Okay.
So we're going
You
to,
sure the other applicant what he brought at the board? You've seen it before.
Oh, yeah, we've done those before,
I
sure.
thought that just because of site plan, we didn't need that.
That's fine. So, but obviously, a match up, let's try and give as much direction as we can, but obviously you've got the existing building, and the new building's going to go up. Let's try and bring it into, merge in to meet the requirements of what we're here to make sure you're with, and work with staff on it, come back to workshop with your board and with what you want to do, then we can sort it out, and if you can hear, that'd be great.
That'd be great.
Perfect.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Next item. Site plan requested by Red Architecture and Planning for Arbys building remodel, property located at 515 Waldron Road, tax map 18F, parcel 1, C2 Highway Service Zoning District, parcel owned by Arbys Restaurant Group. Mr. Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the...
Excuse me, Ms. Logan. He gave us this.
Oh,
It's got some notes on it.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Mr.
I apologize.
that's fine.
Thank you.
On behalf of their client, Red Architecture and Planning is requesting site plan approval for the Arbys Takeout Restaurant located at 515 Waldron Road. This is near Interstate 24. The proposed site consists of 0.777 acres, so about 3/4 of an acre. And the site plan proposes many changes to the exterior of the building, including removal of the older ephes and the addition of a new color scheme. When renovations are complete, the restaurant will be in line with Arbys' new corporate branding. Other improvements include updating the ADA and handicap parking areas. The existing building is 3,143 square feet, and there are 41 car parks indicated on their plan. And there is already an existing sidewalk of 5 feet in width that goes along the entire frontage, and you can see that there in the photo. And there's no outstanding staff comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the board? Is there an applicant here this evening? If you would approach the podium, give us your name and address for the record, ma'am.
Margaret Harrett with JLL at 3344 Peachtree Road Northeast, Suite 1100, Atlanta, Georgia, 30326.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions or comments for the applicant?
Do we have any color in our packet, or do you have
Well,
anything?
if you didn't, I brought some just in case, since we didn't have those last time.
Thank you, ma'am.
So it should be the 11 by 7, the full size that you received, and then there's the site plan, excuse me, as well as the colored pictures. Here you go. So this in color is what I have for you.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions.
Sure.
Do you plan to replace the pole sign or not?
The pole will remain, but there will be a new sign put in place, but we're meeting all of the signage codes, so we're not increasing the square footage or anything there.
Is it going to be the stucco type exterior?
It will be an ephes exterior that off the front facade that's being removed, so new ephes on the front, and then exterior just painting on the remaining parts of the building.
On the lighting, are you going to put any more lighting, obviously lighting inside is going to be the same, but outside, are you going to ensure that there's downwash lighting, so there's no bright lights shining?
That's correct. I mean, we typically will have all the wall packs and things like that on the building. That's correct.
Any other questions or comments?
How many parking spots, you said it's 41? That's the increase? How many is there now?
We are not changing the parking lot layout at all. It's just a strictly remodel of the existing building,
Okay.
updating some striping. So it'll get seal coat and stripes, so it'll look like a brand new parking lot, but it won't be, we're not changing the striping
Okay.
configurations.
So you meant, when you're saying updating, you just mean painting?
Correct.
Or ADA?
Just one other comment on one of your competitors next to you, i.e. McDonald's. On the entrance coming out of McDonald's, we were requesting a right turn only. The issue we run into is during the business day is people come out there and try and turn left against traffic. It becomes very problematic.
Sure.
And so with your other applicant, we would encourage them to put a sign to right only to protect people from trying to cut across 5 or 6 lanes of traffic. Is that something we can look at doing?
I can certainly consider it. we're not changing any of the entrances and exits currently at this time, so we're not looking into any traffic pattern changes, so we're currently just gonna restripe it, is the plan and the intent. We can certainly bring that back for consideration, but I can't say we're gonna definitely put the sign up.
We look at that as a safety.
Sure, no, I totally understand, and it's definitely, I understand that, and I can certainly bring it back to
I mean, I'm
corporate.
just saying, make sure you use the word safety when you take it back to
Sure.
them, because we look at that as safety.
Yeah,
for
I
safety
understand.
reasons,
It is a
because
busy intersection. I went to try
Well,
to go in there.
I've seen too many near misses where they, I mean, they'll come out and one car's blocking the one closest to them. They don't see the car that's zipping on down, and it's just a matter of time
Sure.
that will happen. So it's just safety.
Can we include that request in the motion?
She can't agree to the sign, so I mean, if you put
Okay.
it in the motion and the sign don't go up, the only thing you can do is not give a CO, and that's gonna be a
Okay.
sticking point, so.
If-
It's up to this board, though.
Okay. Kind of a caught situation at meeting time. Well, with that statement, I will entertain a motion at this time.
I would like to make the motion, but I'd like to get the proper verbiage, because I would like to make sure that we get the sign. So.
This
are
is
you
just the
saying that-
first I've heard about it, so.
Understood.
Absolutely,
which is- So
absolutely.
I can't get,
Yeah.
guarantee that
Yeah.
right now.
Well,
since we haven't
we're
looked
gonna
at it.
take that away from you, so they won't say that it's your fault. They can bring it back on us.
Can I ask a question? When's
Yes.
renovation meant to start?
I'm sorry?
When's the renovation meant to start?
As soon as we can get a permit. We got a general contractor ready to go. So as soon as y'all say go, we'll get a permit and make it happen.
Okay, so can I make that,
I'm not sure I understand what the board's trying to do, to be honest. I've been listening, but I'm not sure.
If I'm understanding correctly, you would like to make it part of the motion to put the sign in so that she can present that to corporate, correct?
correct? I'd like to make the motion for them to get underway, but one of the stipulations is coming out of that, I don't know if you pass by that very often, but coming out of that, we want them to go to the right, because going back to the left sends them over four lanes, is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's usually gonna be 4 lanes, because they're gonna usually try to get on the interstate, and they zip across 4 lanes of traffic.
You're
So
wanting to change a part of their site plan? I
No.
mean, note that on the site plan, I'd presume that that's gonna be something that's part of it, correct?
Yes,
So you're approving the site plan, subject to them adding a note that includes a right turn
right
out of
turn.
the exit way.
correct.
With the understanding that if they don't agree to that, there's gonna be no CO that's gonna be issued. They're gonna have to come back for. site
Correct, and
plan
they would say
approval.
they would already have come in and got a permit. So, once they get a permit, they're gonna start doing the work.
Will it create a headache for codes if we do
It's gonna be a
this?
huge headache,
I
but,
recommend, based on staff's, probably not the best idea to do that. If it's
But-
gonna create an issue with,
and even making this request right now, I understand on her side, you gotta take this back to corporate, because that's gonna change that exit to a ride-out only, which if people's following the sign, they may not go to Arbys, they may go on to McDonald's, because it's easier to get in and out, just because of you can't take a left turn. So, I understand both sides of it. I understand on her side, though, she'd have to take it back to corporate to get approval to state that, yes, I am willing to put the exit as a right turn only. So I know she would not
Okay.
be willing tonight to be able to state that.
And I
Definitely
sympathize
would not
for
be
her
a-
too. I sympathize for her too. And I tell you what we're gonna do, because, and I don't mean to sound morbid about it, but at some point if someone gets hurt there, then someone's gonna step in for, the safety of the citizens, and it's gonna happen some way, one way or another, either if it's the
Sure.
state or somebody. So, I mean, they've got everything that they need in order. I make a motion to accept
We have a motion to accept as submitted, sir?
as submitted.
A motion to accept as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second it.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
I'm gonna say no.
All opposed? One no from Mr. Coates. Motion passes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next item. Site plan, Cottages of Lake Forest, Phase 7, Lot 7022, requested by Danny Womble. Property located on Holland Ridge Road, Tax Map 14, PO Parcel 6, R3 High Density Residential Zoning District. Property owned by Laverne LF Holdings LLC. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. On behalf of their client, Womble and Associates, is requesting this site plan approval for Phase 7, Lot 7022 of the Cottages at Lake Forest. And this area is zoned R3, high-density residential, and actually comprises a very small part of this larger area of R3. And this section is roughly 0.82 acres and constitutes 16 lots. And another, on the diagram that's included, I know there was a couple diagrams that show how many bedrooms each unit has, but 12 of these 16 offer 2 bedrooms and the other 4 offer 3 bedrooms. So in addition, there's a third of an acre of open space and 29 parking spaces. So it's at the, will be built at the end of Arlene Court, which is this street here in the photo. And then if you move on up, you can see to the south and east, the earlier section that was completed. And there is one road planned with this addition, and that will be, it will be accessible by a public road. So there is an ingress egress easement that is provided, and they've included this as a note on the plan as well. And like the other existing roads, the maintenance will be provided by the homeowner association, because it will be a private road, so it won't be under city maintenance. And that's all that staff has. There's no outstanding comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from the board?
This has nothing to do with the buildings, but did they take all those pictures yesterday when those clouds came in?
I took them.
Familiar, don't they?
Okay. I usually depend on those pictures, but that cloud came in, I saw it, and it's sort of dark. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? With that, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept.
A motion to accept is submitted. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Miss Yvonne, what was your vote, ma'am?
She's not.
No? Okay. Next item. Already. Concept plan, Webb Estates, property located at intersection of Hollandale Road and Morningside Drive, tax map 14, parcel 23.6 and 23.7, R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District, property owned by Adnan Shreedman. Mr. Logan.
Mr. Chairman, I think we skipped one. We have another site plan.
Number 9.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, sir. Well, back to number 9. Site plan, Holland Ridge Villas, requested by Danny Womble, property located on Holland Ridge Drive, tax map 14, parcels 48.01, 51, 51.01, R3 High Density Residential Zoning District, property owned by Adnan Shreedman. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. On behalf of their client, Womble and Associates is requesting site plan approval for Holland Ridge Villas to be located on Holland Ridge Drive. The site is presently zoned R3, and included in the plan are 103 units at an overall density of 14.5 dwelling units per acre, and this is roughly 7.09 acres. There will be 14 senior units that have master bedrooms downstairs, and those units are 24 feet wide, and the standard width for most of the units is 20 feet or 18 feet. The 20-foot wide units will have garages, which is 20 foot wide is the standard garage width. So, and then the 18-foot wide units are be served by surface parking. There's 4.15 acres of open space being provided, and this is very near the previous item, just a little south and west of it. And this phase also proposes to have internal private streets and the maintenance of those will be the responsibility of the HOA. And some of the site photos, the trees, it's a wooded area, wooded site presently. And then that's looking back north. And then, of course, we've had a little bit of rain, so there's some standing water around. But other than that, there's no, that is the diagram that shows the senior units are the, on each end in brown, and then the other units are in orange and yellow, 20 feet wide and 18 feet wide. And there's no outstanding staff comments.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Logan, I don't know if it's just the wording that it was written this way, but under your summary up, I guess you can call it a paragraph, or the 2 lines next to last where the phase proposed to have several internal private streets. You see where I am?
Yes, yeah.
Why does it say, if any new private roads? Where would they put any new coming out of there? Where could they possibly?
I think that was just a way of saying on some of these sites, you have to go through multiple roads to get to the private streets. So we just wanted to clear up what was HOA maintenance responsibility and what was city maintenance responsibility. So, of course, you can see here, there's several areas of parking and several private streets that are proposed. So, all these would be maintained by the HOA, and they wouldn't be repaved by the city if they had potholes or whatnot.
So you're just letting them know beforehand, if you think about doing it, then they will need ingress, egress. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Not, we'll entertain a motion on this item.
Make a motion to approve this submitted.
We have a motion to approve as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now, on to number 10. Concept plan, Webb Estates, property located at intersection of Hollandale Road and Morningside Drive, tax map 14, parcels 23.6 and 23.7, R1 low-density residential zoning district, property owned by Abnon Shriebman. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting approval of a concept plan tonight, and this is for Webb Estates located on 7+ acres. There are 11 new residential lots that are proposed, and all those 11 are single-family dwellings, and as this is zoned R1, low-density residential, and the plan proposes to show the layout for those, and they all will front either Morningside Drive or Hollandale Road. And the zoning map, it's mostly R1, which is the orange color. And you can see as well, it's pretty wooded area for these 11 lots. And there were not many staff comments to begin with. It's a fairly small site, but there is something under general notes for the sewer interceptor, so I don't know if Mr. Leach wants to speak to that.
Mr. Leach?
Mr. Chairman, Board, we had a discussion, I believe, 2 meetings ago concerning Hollandale Estates, or excuse me, Lake Forest Phase 69, where we were discussing how the Clayton Estates interceptor is nearing capacity. We did allow that particular development to go through. This would be going into the same interceptor that we've discussed being nearing capacity. It is a small development, so the overall impact isn't great, and staff feels okay with proceeding at this point. But as part of the proceedings, staff, along with city administration, are considering looking at a special assessment to basically pay for some capital improvements in the area to improve that interceptor's capacity. And we have briefly discussed that with Mr. Womble. Mr. Womble's discussed that with his client. There's a general feeling of reasonableness about that. So we were trying to put a little finer point on our number before we put that out, and any assessment would also have to go through the Mayor Board of Aldermen to actually go through. But as this is one of several developments that is currently, drifting around out there, at least conceptually, this is probably the correct time to go ahead and look at that, figure out what we can do to offset some of the cost to improve this interceptor. And so I just add that as a general note, just to make the board aware.
Very good. And so until we get that assessment done, developers need to slow down just a little bit.
Well, this is just a concept plan, so you're not really approving anything that's buildable. As far as the concept goes, it is a good concept. It is appropriate to the zoning. It is appropriate to the character of the area. So as far as voting a concept, I would feel comfortable giving you that information.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I just have one. You just encourage the engineer just on lot 4 to put the driveway entrance when it comes to that point as far east as possible. Hollandale Road is starting to get quite a busy road now, so on lot 4, which is the corner lot, just to have the driveway as far east along Morningside as possible.
Name and address real quick, Mr. Womble.
Danny Womble, 40 Middleton Street, Nashville, Tennessee. Yes, we'll be glad to agree to do that. And we're in full agreement to pay what we've been discussing was $500 per lot for I&I, or inflow and infiltration treatment in the sewer system. And Mr. Schreiman has agreed to that. So if that turns out to be the assessment, we're in agreement to do it.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Womble or staff? With that, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the concepts plan as submitted.
We have a motion to accept. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item. Final plat, the Cottages of Lake Forest, Phase 7, Lot 7022. Did I just read this? Request by Womble and Associates, property located on Holland Ridge Road, tax map 14, PO Parcel 6, R3 High Density Residential Zoning District, property owned by Laverne LF Holdings LLC. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This request is the final plat that accompanies the site plan request from a few items back. So this is Cottages of Lake Forest, Phase 7, and the property is already zoned R3, and this project will be built at the end of Arlene Court, and the same photos from the previous item. They are proposing 16 attached townhome units, common space and amenities, so a fairly small development overall. The southern property line does abut the existing cottages of Lake Forest Phase 1. And the total size of this project is 0.82, as mentioned earlier, and the applicant has included a note on the plan that addresses that pavement and curbed areas will be dedicated as a private egress easement and public utility and drainage easement. And they are proposing 5-foot sidewalks, and they're shown on the plans, and there are no outstanding staff comments.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from the board? I will entertain a motion on this item.
Motion to accept is submitted.
We have a motion to accept. We have a second.
Second.
A second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Next item. Request for recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for subdivision acceptance, 5486 Murfreesboro Road, property located on Murfreesboro Road, tax map 18B, Group E, Parcel 5, C2 Highway Service Commercial Zoning District, property owned by Fernan Ferdosi. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This plat came through, I think it was in February, first in February of 17, and then I think it finally passed in June of 17. The final plat passed in June of 17, so just before I started. And it is located on Murfreesboro Road, directly across from Minerva and Mercury Drives, as you can see in the image. And they are building 4 separate lots there, and it's all zone C2, Highway Service Zoning District, and I think Mr. Leach has covered some of the checklists, so I'll let him speak to that. Thank you.
Lord Chairman, this particular subdivision has had all the public improvements completed and in the ground for a period of 6-7 months, well before I got here. Essentially, we're accepting things that have been in the ground and functional for a little while because I believe the water and public sewer had to be extended for this set of parcels. I have the bond for this project, maintenance bond. I have the irrevocable dedication in hand. It has been inspected, so our requirements for subdivision acceptance have been met.
Perfect. Any questions or comments from the board? I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Motion we send a favourable recommendation to Mayor and Alderman for the 5486 Murfreesboro Road improvements.
A motion to send a favorable recommendation. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We'll be sending a favorable recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Alderman. Next item, revised final plat, Brookside Phase 2 development off of Carruthers Road, R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District, property owned by Mitch Bowman. Final plat approved March 9th, 2004. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting approval of a revised final plat for Brookside that has been necessitated by changes in TDEC approvals. The originally approved plat for Phase 2 included a weir in the creek that served as inline detention, utilizing the creek and associated floodplain to attenuate the peak runoff, and TDEC no longer allows this, so other revisions had to be made to the plat. Additionally, the original plan included a creek crossing on Mountaintop Trail, and which would have impacted the floodplain. This was not an issue at the time of platting. However, since that time, the adjoining property was sold, therefore any floodplain changes could impact other properties. And the applicant has worked with staff to develop an alternative in which he would have an appropriately sized detention facility built, and in lieu of building the mountaintop crossing, improve the Carruthers Road Bridge to more modern standards. In 2003, there was an agreement regarding the same bridge that the then developer would contribute to improving the bridge. However, that work did not occur as the then developer declared bankruptcy, necessitating that the city call their bond to complete the roadways in Brookside Phase 1. There's the history of that.
Very good. Mr. Leach, do you have anything for us on this item?
I believe Bo gave you a pretty good synopsis of what I wrote. Essentially, we've been put in a semi-awkward position because our plats don't actually expire, and because plats don't expire, you can go build things that may not pass in a current configuration. Project got started. Obviously, you can't build anything in the creek was kind of the end note there. So this is staff and Mr. Bowman's attempt to, one, do right by the community and, fix the bridge, make a development that'll work with proper detention so that, we won't cause flooding downstream, which was an issue, I believe, at some point shortly in the past. It's a, I'm not going to say one-off because it'll probably happen again as soon as I say that, but it is a unique situation, and this is sort of the unique solution to fix that. So what we staff came up with was revising the plat, including a note on that plat that Mr. Bowman will pay to improve the bridge on Carruthers, which will make it an actual 2-lane. You don't have to stop if someone else is crossing, with guardrails appropriately sized so that, you know, passes the correct amount of water, and tying that structure into the existing roadway with some new asphalt and all the other types of improvement. And then, of course, building detention facilities that were not originally planned in his initial plat with his approved construction plans. So there will be, you know, construction plans ongoing as we work through that. But once again, this is unique in a lot of ways to what would normally happen in the development process.
This is definitely step one to make this happen, right?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question for Graham. Didn't we do something that will, that sort of partially address that time limit on those plats? Because that was coming up as far as, I mean, this was a while ago. I thought we had some plats that were just sitting around, and since they never expired, you know, it left it open for this to happen.
Well, going back to the story of this, I mean, I remember it very well because I was on the board then, but the bridge was an issue, and it was, the concept was to widen both sides of the street, and the developer agreed to do his side of the street, but obviously it failed. I think with what's been drawn up here and with the agreement and Mr. Bowman agrees to what he's agreeing to, I think this is the right step forward to get things, get things.
I mean, I agree with that. I just thought I remember us discussing that if something didn't happen on it, then it wasn't going to be able, was it the plats or I know we discussed something in the meeting. So if something doesn't happen within a specific amount of time, then it just doesn't go on and on.
It wasn't on the final plat though.
Okay.
On the final plat.
I just, yeah, they sort of all run together after a while.
It's in memory there somewhere.
Mr. Chairman, this board put a 2-year time limit on the site plan approvals. I think that's probably what you're talking about.
Okay, that's site plan.
I just want to make sure, Mr. Chairman, that Ms. Bowman's agreeing, what staff said that he's agreeing to, that he agrees to that.
Mr. Bowman, if you would, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Mitchell Bowman, 1105 Creek Run Court, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 37130.
Thank you, sir. You agree with everything staff has said and
Yes, I do.
uphold your part of it?
I agree with it and I
Uphold our
appreciate
part
y'all
of it?
working with me very much.
Thank you for working with us as well, sir.
And with that, I'll make a motion to accept the revised final plat as submitted.
We have a motion to accept as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Last item, bonds and letters of credit. Mr. Leach.
Mr. Chairman, board, in the back of your packet, you will see your regularly scheduled bond update. The only one that will be expiring anytime soon will be one that's due on May 10th, and I have a call in the bank to extend that for another year. So unless you have specific questions, I'll let everyone get out of here.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from the board? Meeting adjourned.